thinking stems.
What if it was like a did I do this first? chart?
Like a checklist.
Yeah, like did I, go through all of these things first?
I like that.
Or am I?
Well,
No, I like
but
that.
here's the thing, and the reason why I like that this is so generic, you can create your
Yeah.
own, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know what? My kids are ready to move on to this type of question or this type of thought. And it's so easy to just use one card stock and make 4 cards. You know what? We're gonna try this. And if it doesn't work, it's a low cost way to abandon something, that we tried. So I think
And I think too, like as teachers, like as we're going around and we're like academic monitoring and we're watching them, like when they ask us questions, we say, did you do this? Did you do this step? Did you notice this? So if they're automatically training themselves first to say, did I draw my picture? Did I
Find the keyword.
Did I,
Identify the problem.
read all of the information? Because a lot of times they want to jump right to the question, especially when there's a pictogram.
Did I look at the picture? Did I analyze it all the way?
And we were discussing our kids are struggling identifying the relationship of what the number represents.
Right.
Like they know how to do the computation, but then when they actually have to apply it, that's where they're loose. That's where the disconnect is coming from. Okay, so I got
that would be like, did I read the whole, word problem?
Did I identify the question? Was that what that was? I got draw a
Just
picture.
all the information in general.
Find a word. Did I identify the needed?
Sometimes it's
Because,
the
some of
action,
it-
it's the math action that's happening. That's what I like to say in my class, it's the math action, like what, you have all these cupcakes, what are we doing with the cupcakes?
So I got draw a picture, find keyword, math actions. Did I?
And again, because a lot of times too, it's like, they don't have a question, there's nothing on their paper, right? And they're like, well, where's your get strategy? Where is your whatever strategy, you know what I mean?
Oh, did I try a strategy?
Yeah, oh, that's a good, did I even, try something? A lot of times they don't, but then why would they not? Why would they not try a strategy? Because they don't know what strategy to,
And they don't wanna be wrong.
to do.
And they don't
Like you
wanna
said.
make us all that. Just try what if you're right. What if you're right?
That's good. What if you're right? What if you're right? Okay, so I like those. Did I? What do y'all think? Did I draw my picture? Did I find keywords? Did I identify the math action? Did I say that right? Did I try a strategy?
Because, you know what I mean by math action is usually like, and we teach them like in my grades, it's like, the word then or now, that's telling you something happened, right? But a lot of times, something's always happening in math, because if there wasn't, it would just be comprehension.
well, there's a word for that though, not just the keyword,
But if there's an action, there's a
Is it-
math action, there's
is it-
something going on in the,
That's
and
what
that's
you
what you have to
were
read
saying
for
earlier.
comprehension. That's where reading comprehension comes in.
or could it be, did I find the correct heart of the question?
Yeah.
Okay. So we got the
Because
did I.
again, too, sometimes they'll do hard, like I'm solving for cupcakes. Okay, what do they want to know about the cupcakes?
Yes,
Is it what did we start with? Is it what we ended with? How do you know those things?
because cupcakes isn't strong enough. They need the
Correct.
action. That's what
Right,
we were
that's
saying.
the action. Like, what are you doing with those cupcakes?
Okay, and so that would be like a starter, did I? And now let's move to like questioning.
Okay.
Because that's like our checklist. And let's say you get a kiddo that's good at that, and then we switch to the next color.
Now they're ready to ask you for help. They completed their.
I did my get strategy.
And now they're still struggling. So now what would they ask instead of just say, I don't know?
I did my get strategy. Did you do it
Did I
correctly?
do my strategy?
Did I do my strategies
And that also is
correctly?
encouraging them, like before you ask, you should try something.
There has to be a strategy first.
Yes.
Did I do the correct strategy?
Like not
Because you
just
can't
did I do
ask
the
that
right
if there's no
answer.
strategy.
Right.
Correct strategy. Okay, there's one. I like that.
And that's what we see as some, like the other day when we were doing some math, and I was walking around and one of my little girls said, like I was like, you see this word, you see this, she's like, oh yeah, the get strategy. And I said, yes. I walk around and come back, she has a strip diagram on her desk, on her paper, and I go, want to
get strategy.
That's not the get strategy though, baby.
So I want this to be a safe environment and have honest reflection. So all of our responses are gonna remain confidential and solely be used for my PASL assessment. So for that reason, no names will be used on the video. But I'd like to begin with talking about instructional growth. So what was one moment you noticed using the strategy really impacting in your classroom?
I'll go first. The moment I noticed that strategies were starting to impact the classroom was when our students were doing work, they were collaborating together, doing multiplication and division word problems together. And I overheard one student say, "Oh, I don't get it, let me go ask the teacher." And the partner at that time was like, "No, we're gonna use remember we have our cards, we're gonna use our cards." And so they prompted that, the other student prompted the other student to actually use the cards. So I think at that time when me as a teacher, when I'm hearing the kids remember to use the cards or to remind other students when to use the cards, it's changing. The students are, it's starting to click.
So what I hear you saying is your students were able to peer tutor each other
Right.
based off of the cards to help them get started. I love that.
Yes.
And in my class, I would say the same thing when I started, seeing them use it independently. Some of my kids I didn't even tell them to do this, but they took it upon themselves to get a dry erase marker, so I can actually see them going through the questions. And then when it came time to ask me a question, they knew to go to the green card, and they would really look at, in the beginning of the week, there was like a teaching moment where like how to use it, what to use it for. So as the weeks progressed, the days went on, and they were able to use the sentences, and they would ask me from here. And now that it's been a couple of days, they're not even asking me anymore. The main one is the blue card, which is where they're asking themselves these
Right.
questions.
Can you tell me specifically which questions helped the most during your instruction?
Yes.
The question list or the problem
Either
checklist?
one.
I think in general it was just you being able to use the checklist, like doing those word problems, those multiplication, division word problems. When they're doing those, just being able to actually just use the question and like getting to the did I use a strategy, and then they're thinking what strategies did I do, like did I do a strategy? And I think just in general having this as a reminder is what's working.
Yes, and for me, I think when they ask me the question, it's the vocabulary one, because some of them I realize they can do the work, but it's like they get stuck on one word. So, like for today, we did a parallelogram, and the was like, I think parallelogram means they look like this. And I said, oh, that's not correct. What do you try again? And she was doing her own thinking. And it was just really me guiding her to it.
Wow,
But seeing
so
that.
it sounds like the cards were actually impacting their thinking towards
Yes.
an idea for the question. And then you had mentioned perpendicular. Was there anything in your class that they used specifically for vocabulary that helped them?
Yes, when we're doing our review too, again, a lot of times it is that geometry using, you're talking about parallelograms.
Yes.
In our grade, it's parallel lines in general. I think it means this, am I correct? And, yes, you're correct, no, you're not.
So how do you feel the sentence stems and the checklist impacted the student confidence?
Oh, I saw the different, like when looking at my data, again, in the beginning when we started this, it was they needed still a lot of direction, and now it's more like, they would even tell me, I didn't even have to ask you for help, like I did it on my own. I didn't need to go to the green card today. So they're
Oh.
seeing that too.
They're seeing
So they're noticing their impact. Is there a certain student that really stood out in improvement based on your data?
Yes, I had one student, I had a Randy, and he was really stubborn in the beginning. He just told me, I don't need to use that. It's not gonna help me. And I said, well, that's fine, you don't have to use it. And then when we were doing our exit tickets, he was consistently missing it. And so I kind of talked with him, I even showed him my data without the names, and I was like, look at, like, compared to other students who use it. So then one day he tried it, and he got it right, and he just looked at me like, oh, you're right. And he didn't want to admit it, and then the next day he goes, I'm just gonna use my card. And he did, and now he's getting them right.
Right.
I love that.
And I think too with Beckham, one of my students, Beckham, he shuts down, he gets frustrated right away, he's like that productive struggle right away. So I would have to prompt him with the cards, but once I'm prompting him with the cards, then he's more successful with it, yes.
So we really feel like the cards were the visual reminder that they
Yes.
needed, and it
Sure.
sounds like in your class, it wasn't even just the visual reminder, it was the actual use for the other students
Yes.
that helped him
Mhm.
perform. What surprised you the most from this process?
Honestly, I think what surprised me the most was that, I don't wanna say that they actually, but that they work. It's that productive struggle, it's getting the kids to actually do the thinking, whereas us as teachers, we think like, oh, I've done the strategy, I've taught you the steps, this is how we're going to do it. But then when you're sending them on their own, a lot of times they wanna wait and just let you do the thinking for them, but this is making them do the thinking when they're getting stuck in their independent work.
So it sounds like your students really showed growth in their critical thinking.
Yes, and being able to kind of like self-regulate, self-think, self-work
Go through the
that.
problem,
Mhm.
yes.
Good to go through the problem, for sure.
How was your thinking about teaching and learning before this? How has it changed now from this experience?
I can say that I know one of my struggles is always my pacing. I tend to go kind of fast, and sometimes I expect my students to go fast. So seeing the checklist and seeing like, okay, this student's barely on the second one, but they're thinking, like they're not just sitting there. I can tell they're trying to make it through it. So it helps me to see where they're at and their thoughts.
I love that. So pacing is definitely always a struggle, I think, for a lot of us. So the cards you noticed helped with pacing, but how did it impact a certain student with pacing?
Well, it also helped them to stay on task because while they're going through it, especially the way it was ordered from like your first step to your last step, like trying a strategy. So really seeing them keeping track of it, they're watching the clock too. They're like, okay, I should be here, I should be there. And then once they see all their checks, their confidence was just there. Like I did all of it.
I love hearing that. They're actually developing that sense of belonging. They're developing that confidence. So let's move into collaboration as a group. What did we learn? What did you learn from hearing each other's perspectives as we were doing our meetings and reflections? What helped you?
Well, I see the positiveness from what she is talking about. We're seeing a lot of the same things happening within our classroom. The conversations with our students, the independent thinking with our students, the cards are very beneficial to guide the students through their learning.
Good. So tell me more about the self-confidence that you're seeing in your classroom.
Self-confidence is really, it's improving, especially with the math, certain skills, the geometry, the vocabulary, all of those things. It's definitely improving when they're getting stuck on work. Being able to, work through the problems on their own. They're not wanting to shut down. I'm seeing a big difference with the students just getting started right away.
Nice. Well, I love to hear that. So how is this impacting our culture in our classroom?
It is a lot more positive. They want to do the work. They're excited that they can do it by themselves. I know in 4th grade they can get embarrassed, raising their hand sometimes. And I've even had students say like, I don't need you, like I have this. And it's like they're like, I don't want to hurt your feelings. I was like, no, that makes me happy. Like you're supposed to be independent. They're excited to do it. They like that they have a little guide.
Right. And yes, they're feeling they're excited about doing our level up. They feel very excited. They're coming in and saying, do we get to do this today? Are we gonna be able to do this today? And so yes, the excitement is definitely there.
Their confidence
Their
too,
confidence
just like
is
I did
definitely
it.
up, yes.
With no help, I could do it.
Right.
Well, I love hearing all of that. So do you think this is something that we could implement campus-wide?
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
And how would you think that would impact the school?
Well, and of course, I think that if we did it throughout the school, obviously we'd have to tweak them based on grade level. But I think if it's systems that are put into place that can be applied, and then once they learn the small systems, and then we're going to the next grade level, yeah.
I love that. Well, I do appreciate, I'm gonna be very conscious of our time. I appreciate all of your feedback. And I just want to thank you again for all of your reflection and your willingness to engage in this process.